Could you give me a bit of an overview on what's happened here?
In terms of fluoridation, water supply authorities across the state can make a choice with extensive public consultation as to whether or not they put fluoride in their water or not put fluoride in their water. Now, there are lots of arguments about whether fluoride is good or bad, and there are lots of different groups that have taken up the different causes along that. I don't want to get into those arguments, and that's not what this is about. This is all about the fact that the community had an expectation that fluoride was being put in the water. The community were aware that fluoride was being put in the water, and the community was accepting of that fact. If you go and look at the Fluoridation of Public Water Supplies Act 1957, number 58 in particular, it talks about a few things and basically says if a water supply authority to which an approval is being granted shall not discontinue fluoridating the public water supply, and if you do discontinue, it's an offence of that Act, that 1957 Act. Now, what's happened in Dubbo is in January 2019, there was a leak found in the container that held the fluoride that was then dosed into the water supply. So that leak was found, and obviously if it's leaking, there's no point putting fluoride in the water because you're putting fluoride in the container, it leaks out again, so you've got to fix that problem. So the staff at the water treatment plant were aware of that problem. They notified upper management of council, they notified New South Wales Health about that problem. And presumably then they were waiting for the process to start in terms of how to fix that problem. Do we repair the tank? Do we need to do some reconstruction work? What happens? They went through further, again doing the right thing, and talked to Public Works and said we need some information about exactly what we need to do with this fluoride and how to reconfigure it. And Public Works gave them some additional information. And again, from what we can see now here in 2022, that information was given to upper management of council, and you would expect that they would take action on that. And New South Wales Health was certainly aware of it, and they also were communicating with council to say you need to fix that fluoride problem because you can't go for too long without putting fluoride in the water. In fact, it's a breach of the Act, the 1957 Act, if you do that. At some point in time, upper management decided to do nothing. And from that point on, so probably, well, from January 2019, there's been no fluoride put in the water. If you go to, say, June 2019, that's where the communication seems to come, from what we've been able to investigate so far, to pretty much a standstill, and no further communication has occurred. We then received a letter, so now we've got a new council, a new CEO, a new mayor, and we received a letter in June 2022, so 20th of June 2022 this year, from New South Wales Health, informing us about the fact that there was no fluoride being put in the water and what we're doing about it. And of course, as you can imagine, we're sitting there saying, well, this is something that's pretty new to us. In fact, we did have an inkling that something was going wrong just a couple of months ago. So we'd actually started some internal investigations a couple of months ago, but then this was the first formal correspondence from New South Wales Health to talk to us about the fact that fluoride wasn't being put in the water. We've subsequently held a meeting with New South Wales Health, and we've said that, yes, we will rectify that. And the first process, or the first step in that process, is the council meeting this week, where we've got a report that goes to council, goes to councillors, and also to the community. And that's the important thing here in my mind. The community trusts council to treat water to the appropriate drinking standard and deliver that out to the taps around Dubbo. And from January 2019, that hasn't been occurring, but more importantly, the community has not been informed. And that's where I'm disappointed, and that's where, from a council perspective, I personally would like to apologise to the community on behalf of council. Obviously, I wasn't on council when this all occurred, but still, as the current mayor, I'd like to apologise to the community for that lack of transparency, that lack of communication, and really breaching the trust the community had in council as the water authority.
Yeah, definitely. Is there any comment you can make on what kind of outcomes council will be looking at in tomorrow's meeting at all?
So obviously the first thing is to inform the community. So we're doing that. Talking to you is helping do that. We're communicating as much as we can to let the community know. Then the next thing we've got to do is go through a process, and we'll use Public Works to do that, to find out exactly what we need to do to repair it. Then we've got to go through a process to have some approximate costing of that, and it's not going to be cheap. Go through that process, get the approximate costing, then go out to tender for the repair work that's required, and then engage a contractor to do that work and fix the problem. That all takes time, And I don't know why it wasn't started 3.5 years ago, but we'll go through as quickly as we possibly can to rectify the situation. But I don't expect the situation to be rectified before possibly June next year, June 2023, before all of that process is complete. That's our absolute deadline from ourselves internally to reach that deadline date. We'll go as quickly as we can. But even just the budget, I'm expecting this to be a significant cost, and we haven't budgeted for that. The only saving grace in that process is that the water budget, the water treatment process of council, has a separate budget to the rest of council, so we won't need to be taking money from fixing potholes or other parts of the community. The water budget will be separate, but upgrades that we might have done in the water treatment process or the delivery of water or upgrades to reservoirs, any of those types of things, then we'll have to find the money in that budget and obviously delay some of those other projects to fix this problem.
Yeah, for sure. Was there anything else that you'd like to add on that topic at all?
It'd be fair to say that councillors have been somewhat disappointed with the state of council that was handed to the new group of councillors when we came onto council. You would hope in any organisation, whether it's a PNF or a Rotary Club or a council, that whatever group, committee, councillors, etc., you've got hand over the organisation in better shape than they were given the organisation, and it continues on to keep improving it. We've had a few things that we've found since we've come onto council that have definitely been disappointing and things that we don't think were done right in the last council. But of all the things that I've seen so far, this is the worst situation that I've seen. Breaching an act, breaching the trust of the community, not communicating with the community about something as important as this. It's certainly very disappointing. And councillors, when we had a workshop just a couple of days ago to actually discuss this topic, councillors were certainly disappointed and were in disbelief about how this could happen. So it is a very disappointing situation to be in. And all we can do now is, as I said before, I apologise for the past. We can't change the past. We can fix it going forward, and that's what we're committed to doing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for your time today.